Good morning, hello friends. I'm Arpit and I'm here with today's analysis, that is 17th of August. Now in this initiative, we cover the most important topics in news. We not only cover the topics, we link them with their basics as well, so that you get a holistic picture of whatever the topic is. This holistic picture will definitely help you answer questions in prelims as well as mains examination. So let's begin with today's analysis. We're going to cover three topics today. First is the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. We call it CPEC, which is part of the larger Belt and Road Initiative of China. Now, why was this in news? This was in news because, some, I would say, separatist organization, that was the Baloch Liberation Army, have attacked a convoy of the Chinese people who were going to the Gwadar port. And in retaliation, those separatists were killed when the Pakistani army attacked them. But this episode per se is not of importance from the exam point of view, but yes, the larger China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and the BRI, that is the Belt and Road Initiative, this is important for us. So we'll be looking into that. Next topic is the much talked about Government of NCT of Delhi Amendment Bill 2023. We are also calling it as the Delhi Services Bill, which has been passed, and the President has also given her assent to the bill. What are the details of the bill? What are the, I would say, contentious details of the bill, contentious provisions of the bill? We will look into them, and how the, I would say, administrative system in Delhi works right now. We'll get to know from this. So in detail we'll go here. Then the last is remittances to India. Now the government has released this data that last fiscal year we have received 112.5 billion USD remittances from the Indians staying abroad. Now this is the highest ever remittances received, and why in the future we are expected to receive more than these remittances. All these trends we'll study with respect to remittances, and questions from here definitely can be asked in the upcoming mains examination. So let's begin today's analysis. The first topic, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. As I told you that, why was it in news? Because two separatist militants attacked a convoy of the Chinese people who were going to the Gwadar port in the Balochistan province of Pakistan. Those two militants were killed by the Pakistani army. So this was the reason why this was in news. Now, what is the Gwadar Port project? We should also know this. Gwadar Port is a deep sea port being built by China as part of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is part of the larger Belt and Road Initiative of China. Now, in this particular topic, we are going to study two subtopics. First is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, and then we are also going to look into the Belt and Road Initiative. First, the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Now, as we can see from the map that, it is coming from Kashgar, that is in the Xinjiang province of China, and comes to Gwadar. Here is another deep sea port, Karachi. Actually, CPEC also aims to connect this route from Kashgar to Gwadar with Karachi also, so that the Chinese will have access to two deep sea ports in Pakistan. And this is basically the route of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. You can see that this route is passing from the POK, Pakistan Occupied Kashmir. Did China take any permission from India, since POK is a territory which is claimed by India but administered by Pakistan? It is passing this China-Pakistan Economic Corridor from this territory. Did China take any permission from India? This question will be answered shortly. Now it extends from Kashgar to Gwadar via Pakistan occupied Kashmir. The start year of this project was 2015. Now we'll get into more details of the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. Goals of CPEC was, first is to transform Pakistan's economy by modernizing its road, rail, air and energy transportation systems. Second is connect the deep sea Pakistani ports of first Gwadar and second Karachi to China's Xinjiang province, where we saw that city Kashgar, and beyond by overland routes. Now, phases of CPEC. CPEC is being implemented in 2 phases. Now we can memorize this in this way, that the first phase is about laying the, I would say, infrastructure, where energy infrastructure, port development and railway line construction have been constructed or are being constructed in the first phase. So the groundwork has been done in the first phase. In the second phase, whatever railway line has been made, roads have been made, ports have been constructed, infrastructure projects others have been constructed. Now the time is in the second phase to bring in industries. So the second phase focuses on the special economic zones development, SEZs, in Pakistan. And this phase per se started in 2022, February 2022, and an ongoing phase. Is the phase 1 completely over, completely complete? No, that is in the advanced phases of implementation. The roads almost got constructed, the Gwadar port terminals are getting constructed. They are in the advanced phases, but the second phase have simultaneously begun. So this is the present scenario of CPEC. Now, CPEC is part of the Belt and Road Initiative, as I told you. But to understand this Belt and Road Initiative, we need to go back to 2013. 2013 was the year when China launched its over-ambitious One Belt, One Road, OBOR. OBOR was renamed as Belt and Road Initiative in 2017, 16, 17, something like this. Now, what is One Belt, One Road? You might know that China is, I would say, an ancient manufacturer of silk. China used to supply silk to Europe in the ancient times, medieval times. By following that land route, China, Central Asia, Russia and then Europe. So China wants to revive that ancient trade route, and that was called as the Silk Route at that time. And China wants to do it through One Belt, One Road or Belt and Road Initiative. So China wants to do intercontinental connectivity, re-establish intercontinental connectivity. It wants to connect 3 continents. First is Asia, where China is. Second is Europe, where China used to export silk during the ancient times. And the third continent, which is a new addition, is Africa. Another new addition is that China does not only want to establish this intercontinental connectivity by land route, it wants to establish this intercontinental connectivity by sea route as well. And while establishing intercontinental connectivity by sea route, Africa will be there in the, I would say, way to Europe. That is why 3 continents, Asia, Africa and Europe. Now let's understand One Belt, One Road. Now here One Belt, One Road should be divided into one belt and one road. What is the belt? The belt is that, over the land route, ancient Silk Road. And road is the maritime Silk Road. Don't get confused, it is the other way around. One Belt, One Road or belt and road, this road does not mean over the land connectivity from Asia to Europe. This means maritime connectivity. And this means, overland connectivity. This was the ancient Silk Road. And this is the new. I'll show it to you through the map as well. The belt refers to Silk Road economic belt, which is a series of overland routes reminiscent of the Silk Road of the antiquity, means of the history. The road refers to the sea routes, which is also referred to as the 21st century maritime Silk Road. This maritime Silk Road we are calling it. India initially was part of this One Belt One Road or Belt and Road Initiative, but in 2019 India came out of this Belt and Road Initiative. Why? Because the China-Pakistan economic corridor passing through POK, China did not seek permission from India. Means China does not recognize sovereignty of India over POK. POK, although is administered by Pakistan, but it is a territory which is claimed by India. It is on the Indian map. So India was out of this Belt and Road Initiative. Now let's go to the map. Now when I talk about the map, now see, this is the road going through the seas. This is Asia. You can see Kolkata part of it. This is the map of before 2019. Kolkata part of it. This is the road, Maritime Silk Road. And this is the belt. The road is this sea route. So this is BRI pre 2019. Now I'll show you BRI post 2019, where India is not part of it. See, India is not part of it. This is Myanmar, Coco Island and all. Okay. And these are the sea routes via Africa to Europe, and these are over the land routes. The black lines which you see are rail connectivity. The red lines which you see are road connectivity. And these dark red lines which you see are economic corridors. This is China-Pakistan economic corridor. This is China-Myanmar economic corridor. China-Myanmar Bangladesh economic corridor. So like this. This is post 2019, means India is not part of it. So this was One Belt One Road, Belt and Road Initiative, now known as, earlier it was One Belt One Road. Okay. Why did China change the name of One Belt One Road to BRI? We should also know this. No, One Belt One Road was kind of symbolically or psychologically sounding too, overarching. It is a very ambitious project, no doubt about the fact. But since it was sounding too over-ambitious or too overarching, too controlling, China thought that we should do a makeover in the name of, by changing the name at least. Belt and Road Initiative, it should sound positive. Because see, the Chinese have to bring on board, if they want to make this project a success, they have to bring on board more than 100 countries. They have to convince more than 100 countries for this project of theirs. And they obviously cannot convince countries by sounding dominant. So One Belt One Road sounded dominant. Belt and Road Initiative is kind of a positive, I would say, connotation of that. That is why the name was changed. How is it important for China, or how important it is for China? See, when it was launched 2013 till 2018-19, it was the most important project for China. But recently, there was a report by a Chinese journal, with that journal releases top 10 priorities for the government of China. And Belt and Road Initiative dominated the number one position, or was at the number one position consistently for many years. From 2013 when it was started till 2018-19. But last year, to 2020, 21, 22, we saw it on the 7th position. Means it is the 7th highest priority for Chinese government now. So, let us see how it unfolds. The target year to establish this intercontinental connectivity set by the Chinese government is 2049. So a long way to go. Let's see what happens. As of now, it is seeming of less priority, but it can again gain momentum. It can again gain priority. It can move up the ladder in that priority list in the times to come. You don't know, because recently there was this incident in Sri Lanka as well, which dented China's image, as China is laying countries in debt traps. So that is why also it has backfired China, or it has dented this particular project of China. So let us see how things unfold. But as of now, India is not part of it, and we should closely follow any developments in this regard. Now, next is Parliament passes Government of NCT of Delhi Bill 2023. The President has given its assent to the bill. But to understand this, let us go back to the basics, and we'll begin with understanding it on the blue board. We should first understand government has three arms. First is legislature. Second is executive. Third is the judiciary. Legislature's job is to make laws. Executive's job is to execute those laws made by the legislature. And judiciary is interpreting those laws, overlooking that these laws which are made are in tune with the constitution. They are not violating the constitution as such, because constitution is the supreme. They should be looking into, the judiciary should be looking into the passage of this bill. This bill has been passed in a correct manner. It is being executed in the correct manner. And judiciary has that much power that it can nullify the bills passed by the legislature and executive. On the other hand, the legislature and executive also have powers to nullify the orders of judiciary. Why I am making you understand all this is because all this happened in the passage of this bill. We'll see how. The legislature at the central level is Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha. At the state level, it is Legislative Assembly, and a few states in India also have the upper house called as Legislative Council. So, the Legislative Assembly of the states, they make laws for the states. The Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha, they make laws for the entire country. Do they make laws on the same subjects? No. Their subjects are divided. Their subjects are divided according to the 7th schedule of the Constitution, where there are 3 lists: the union list, the state list, and the concurrent list. The union list contains all those topics on which the central government can make laws only. The state government or the state list contains those all topics on which the state government can make laws. Whereas the concurrent list contains all those topics on which the center as well as the states both can make laws. But if on a particular topic the center has also made a law and the state has also made a law, the law made by the center prevails. So this is basically the federal setup of the country, where powers are divided. What kind of powers? Law-making powers are divided, and obviously the executing of those laws are also divided. Like on those subjects which the state governments are making laws, they are responsible for executing it. On the subjects which the union is making laws, they can be executed by the union, or it can be delegated to the states to execute. It depends on the union. But the states making laws, executing themselves. They have the law-making power as well as executing powers. Now we discuss the curious case of Delhi. The government of NCT of Delhi NCT stands for National Capital Territory. The government of NCT of Delhi basically there was a constitutional amendment bill, the 69th constitutional amendment bill, which was passed in 1991-92. Now before 1991 or before the passage of this bill, the Delhi, I would say the Union Territory of Delhi did not have a legislative assembly. Since it was a union territory, quite understandable, union territories are those territories which are directly under the control of the government. The central government makes laws for them and executes laws over there. But the case of Delhi, population was high and the people were also demanding a separate legislative assembly for them. So the government of India decided that let us give some powers to the Legislative Assembly of Delhi. Let us form a Legislative Assembly of Delhi and delegate some powers. ठीक है? तो Union Territory Delhi got its Legislative Assembly, not Legislative Council, only Legislative Assembly is there with 70 seats. The responsibility of Legislative Assembly of Delhi was to make laws on state list or make laws on subjects in state list and concurrent list as with other states. But there was a catch that 3 subjects which are there in the state list, they were not for Delhi Legislative Assembly to make laws on. What are these 3 subjects? Police, public order and land. On these 3 subjects, the Delhi government could not make laws. Apart from these 3 subjects, on all the subjects in the state list and the concurrent list, Delhi Legislative Assembly was allowed to make laws. When I say that allowed to make laws, means only allowed to make laws. They were not allowed to execute those laws. Who was responsible for executing? The central government was responsible for executing. This simply means that only law-making power per se was given to the Delhi government, according to the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act, on all the subjects in state list and concurrent list except for these 3 subjects. Okay. So this is the entire scenario. Now we progress in our, I would say, content, that is this particular bill and how this bill has been passed. We will go through a timeline. The first is 69th Constitutional Amendment Act 1991, which I just briefly explained to you. This gave this formed the Legislative Assembly in Delhi, and when this Legislative Assembly was formed, Legislative Assembly was responsible for making laws on all the subjects in the state list and the concurrent list except those 3 subjects which I mentioned. Apart from it, in 2019, Supreme Court 2-judge bench judgment gave a split verdict. Now the Delhi government was never happy with this passage of this bill. They wanted complete statehood. They said that we want to make laws on those 3 subjects also, and we want, more importantly, the executing powers. ठीक है जी. So they were, always contesting for this. Then 2019, Supreme Court 2-judge bench gave a split verdict. They said that, Delhi government should have executive powers. One said they should not have. But what happened on those 3 subjects? The courts till now have said that the center should have power to make laws on those 3 subjects. Delhi government should not be given powers to make laws on those 3 subjects. Why? What is the logic behind this? See, Delhi is the face of the country. In Delhi, there are many embassies of the world. Now just imagine a situation. Now this is obviously not to imagine, but the present situation is like this only, that there are different political parties in power in Delhi and in center. But just imagine this situation, that these 3 subjects are with the Delhi government. Now the Delhi government is not at good terms with the central government. Let's suppose from country X people have come and say that they want to establish an embassy and they want land for it, and they also want protection from the police. Their embassy wants protection. So the Delhi government can refuse to give land because this would undermine the position of central government in the eyes of the officials of country X. Because the officials of country X will talk to the central government only, they will not talk to the state government. So this would, I would say, undermine, or I would say undervalue the position of the central government in the eyes of the world. And that is why these three subjects have been kept under the central government, not given to the state government, and will never be given. This is quite sensible. 2021, a law was passed, Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi Amendment Act 2021. This was passed by the Parliament, and this particular law gave the Lieutenant Governor, Lieutenant Governor is the head of the executive in Delhi, like there is a governor in the state, Chief Minister. We have a Chief Minister in Delhi, but the governor is the Lieutenant Governor since it is a UT. So this particular bill gave the Lieutenant Governor extraordinary powers. 2022, a Supreme Court 3-judge bench viewed the case since they referred to a higher bench. So they delivered a split verdict. It had to be referred to a higher bench. So Supreme Court 3-judge bench viewed the case and referred it to a larger bench. They also referred it to the larger bench. They said that we will not be able to decide on this. Finally, in 2023, Supreme Court 5-judge bench, it is also called as the Constitutional Bench, gave their judgment. And the judgment was in favor of the Delhi government with respect to executing powers. This 2023 5-judge bench also highlighted the fact that those three subjects will be with the center, will not be given to Delhi. But they highlighted the fact that lawmaking powers as well as the executive powers should be with the Delhi government. This was a victory for Delhi government, but this victory was very short-lived since the central government passed an ordinance to nullify the Supreme Court judgment. Now, as I told you that the three arms of the government, legislature, executive, judiciary can nullify. Executive can also nullify judiciary's orders. So here, executive, president passes an ordinance, president is head of the executive, and the Supreme Court judgment was nullified. This ordinance was passed into a full law in the present, monsoon session of the Parliament, which is now over. So this was the timeline with respect to this bill. Okay. We'll go into the details. Article 239AA inserted in the Constitution by the 69th Amendment Act. National Capital Territory of Delhi will have an administrator and a legislative assembly. Administrator means LG, Lieutenant Governor. The legislative assembly shall have power to make laws on all the subjects in the state list and concurrent list except three subjects: police, public order and land. However, in the past few years, governance in the NCT of Delhi has been a bone of contention, or has been the, I would say, controversial part. Governance simply means execution, executive powers. This legislative assembly, this government of Delhi, which is headed by a chief minister, is only having powers to make laws, not execute them. So executing pertains to governance over here. Now, cases with respect to control over administrative services. Now, 2019, there was a case where 2-judge bench gave a split verdict. Now, whenever there is a split verdict, the case is referred to a higher bench. Then this case went to a 3-judge bench in 2022. This 3-judge bench said that, we are not going to deliver a verdict on this. This is a matter of, I would say, grave constitutional concern and should be referred to higher bench. So 5-judge bench, the case was referred to. The 3-judge bench had decided that the question of control over administrative services required further examination, and hence Supreme Court in 2023 judgment of a 5-judge bench gave the administrative and legislative control to the Delhi government. Now, SC rules in favor of the Delhi government. It was May 2023 when this judgment was there, and the executive and the legislative powers were given to the Delhi government. So this was a victory for Delhi government. The dispute was over matters pertaining to control over transfers and overall functioning of administrative services in the NCT of Delhi. Earlier, this was Lieutenant Governor LG, Chief Secretary and Secretary of the Services Department who took a call on all this. Means it was under the central government. All these are employees of the central government. But after this order of Supreme Court, it went to the state government. But this victory of the state government, as I told you, was very short-lived. So it was replaced by this ordinance. But before coming on to this ordinance, let us look into that what were the legal issues before Supreme Court in dealing with this. There were two legal issues before Supreme Court. The first was, from that particular case of 2019 where a split verdict was given with respect to judging that question, administrative services and executing powers and legislative powers. Then referred to a higher bench in 2022, 3-judge bench said that we cannot decide, referred to a higher bench, 5-judge bench. So this was in front of it, the first major legal issue. Who is going to have the legislative and executive powers? The second question was with respect to that Amendment Act which was passed in 2021, which gave extraordinary powers to the LG. The Supreme Court here also said that the LG should not be treated as the government of Delhi. The government of Delhi is the democratically elected government of Delhi by the people of Delhi. So LG is not the government of Delhi, which this particular law calls. Now, however, this was overturned by the passage of this ordinance, and this ordinance came in the very month only, that is May 2023 only, the central government passed this ordinance. Now, content of the ordinance, what is the content of the ordinance? This has to be taken care of. The ordinance seeks to establish for the first time the National Capital Civil Services Authority, NCCSA. NCCSA composition will be first Chief Minister of Delhi as its chairman, Chief Secretary and Principal Home Secretary being the other two members. So these are the three members who are going to be part of NCCSA. These three members will be deciding on the transfer postings, any vigilance matters with respect to the civil servants in Delhi. You might be wondering, Chief Minister being the head of this NCCSA, central government passing this ordinance, making Chief Minister of Delhi as the head of this NCCSA, then it is under Delhi government only, administration. No, it is not under Delhi government. Although he is the chairman, but the decisions taken in NCCSA will be by majority. It will be by majority, and it will make recommendations to the Lieutenant Governor regarding transfer, posting, vigilance and other matters. All matters to be decided by the NCCA shall be decided by majority of votes of the members. So these two members, Chief Secretary and Principal Home Secretary, are appointees of the center. They can overrule Chief Minister's decision. This is the power of civil services, and you guys are appearing for that. So this is how Chief Minister's decision can be overturned, because all these three members have equal vote, that is one vote, and the votes will be decided, or the decisions will be taken by majority. And not only that, NCCSA has to take a decision and pass its decision to the Lieutenant Governor. The Lieutenant Governor also can overturn those decisions. He has that power. LG has that power. So technically speaking, NCCSA also is not the final deciding authority. LG is the final deciding authority. So this is how it has been framed, and this is how power has not been given, or administrative powers have not been given to the Chief Minister of Delhi. Role of Lieutenant Governor. LG will pass orders to give effect to the recommendations passed by NCCSA, because he is the final deciding authority. In case LG differs with the recommendations made by NCCSA to him, he can resend them back to NCCSA for reconsideration. But again, if NCCSA passes the same recommendations and LG does not agree, then in case of difference of opinion, the decision of the LG shall be final. There is no specific provision in the ordinance regarding transfer posting, discipline, etc. of Group B and Group C officers. So Group B and Group C officers, administration of these people or transfer postings, vigilance matters of these people is with the state government only. We are talking only about Group A civil services, and there's another category, Daniks and Danips, that is Delhi, Andaman and Nicobar Island civil services, Delhi, Andaman and Nicobar Island police services. Okay. These are the two, I would say, services which are there in your civil services exam also. Now, key features of the bill which has replaced the ordinance. NCCSA, same as mentioned in the ordinance, it is the same. Decisions are taken by majority. It recommends decisions to the LG. LG has the final say. Role of LG, same as ordinance. Now, disposal of matters by ministers. The ministers of the Delhi government may issue standing orders for the disposal of matters brought to his attention. The order should be issued in consultation with the concerned department secretary. This department secretary is also appointee of the central government. So the ministers also cannot take any decisions independently. They have to take decisions in consultation with their department secretary. Department secretary is an appointee of the center. Duties of secretaries. Additionally, the concerned department secretaries must bring certain matters to the notice of LG, the chief minister and the chief secretary. These include matters which may bring the Delhi government in controversy with the central government, in controversy at times with the judiciary as well, Delhi High Court or Supreme Court, any court. So all in all, if I say in a nutshell, the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act largely stays as it is. Why I am saying largely stays as it is? Legislative powers as per the 69th Constitutional Amendment Act passed in 1991 was with the Delhi government. Executive powers was not. Same is the case now. A new body, NCCSA, has been formed where Chief Minister is its chairman along with the Chief Secretary and Principal Home Secretary. Decisions are taken by majority which can be overturned by the LG also. So LG has been given these extraordinary powers. Central government has the final say by passing this bill. Let's see how things turn out from now. But this particular bill is very, very important for this year's mains. Have questions been asked from this domain, that is transfer of powers or delegation of powers between the central government and the Delhi government, Article 23988? Definitely it has been asked. In the mains also, it has been asked in 2016. It can again be asked. So keep an eye on this. And the last topic, remittances to India. Now, first of all, we should understand what are remittances. People go out of India, they earn money, they send back money to their parents. The best part is the money which they send back is in dollars or euros or any foreign currency. There are many households in India which are surviving on that money which they receive. There are many households in India which are improving their standard of living on that money. It is the government of India whose forex reserves are, given a cushioned effect with that money. And that money grew by 26%, recorded its highest ever mark and reached 112.5 billion USD, the highest ever. Now, what are remittances? When migrants send home part of their earnings in the form of either cash or goods to support their families, these transfers are known as workers or migrant remittances. They have been growing rapidly. India is the biggest, I would say, receiver of remittances in the world. How much remittances did India receive? 112.5 billion USD, 2022-23 data. How much remittances were received in the last fiscal? That is last year, if we compare, it was 89.1 billion USD. For the very first time, we have crossed the $100 billion mark. So this is there. From which country we have received the highest remittance? This is also interesting. It is now USA. Earlier, the highest were from Gulf Cooperation Council countries Actually, it was Saudi Arabia, individual country if I talk about, and USA has replaced Saudi Arabia. Now, there's an interesting data coming up. In between 2016-17 and 2020-21, the remittances from US, UK, Singapore increased from 26% to 36% in the total share of remittances. The share from 5 GCC countries dropped from 54% to 28%. In 2020-21, the US, with the share of 23%, surpassed Saudi Arabia to become India's top source country for remittances. Now, by closely analyzing this particular data, that remittances from US, UK and Singapore increased and GCC countries dropped from 54 to 28%. Does this mean that the Indians living in these countries have drastically increased, US, UK and Singapore? No, they have not drastically increased. Neither the Indians in these GCC countries, the West Asian countries where, these are oil extracting countries, have the Indians reduced over there? No, that is also not the fact. But the fact is that the Indians living in US, UK and Singapore are engaged in or are white collar workers. They are engaged in skilled jobs. Whereas Indian workers in these GCC countries are in semi-skilled or unskilled jobs. And this has surpassed, or this has started to increase remittances from US, UK and Singapore, countries like these where Indians are in skilled jobs, white collar jobs. This is a good sign because, the income in skilled jobs increases at a very faster pace, whereas the incomes in semi-skilled and unskilled jobs increases at a very slow pace like this. Now, since we have the maximum, remittances coming from skilled jobs, so it is definitely expected to increase in the years to come as well. So maybe next year we might be witnessing around $125 to $130 billion and majority of the contribution from the skilled jobs. Now, global trend of remittances, if I talk about, $794 billion were around the total remittances sent from one country to the other country, out of which India received $112.5 billion. So, this represents a growth of 4.9% because in 2021 it was $781 billion. Now, of the $794 billion, $626 billion went to low and middle income countries. This is a good sign, transfer of money from, I would say, the developed world to the developing or underdeveloped world. The top 5 countries who were receiving remittances, first obviously is India, $112 billion, more than $100 billion it is. Second is Mexico, third is China, fourth is Philippines and fifth is Egypt. Now, until 2011, 12, 13, China was at number 1, but India has surpassed China, and just see the gap between India and Mexico. The gap is huge. This simply means that India is going to remain in that position. It gives a soothing effect or a cushioning effect to our forex reserves as well. So, it is very, very important for us. The thing is that these remittances should keep on growing and should be utilized in a positive way in India. So, this is all from today's class. We'll be meeting up tomorrow with more such exciting topics which are recurrently in news, covering them in holistic manner, which you can use them in prelims as well as mains. So, that's all from today. Signing off. This is Arpit and we'll be meeting tomorrow. Jai Hind.